Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. So today we are starting off with a series which is called Moral Lessons from the Quran. Basically, in every session, I will be selecting a couple of verses from the Quran, and these selected verses, would actually relate to some moral or ethical message which the Quran keeps giving its believers. And as we have been discussing this in our various sessions, that as far as morality is concerned, it is not that the Quran is for the first time pointing out certain moral issues or certain moral teachings, because these moral teachings are ingrained in us. So what the Quran actually does is that it reminds us of those moral teachings which we already have in our innate guidance. So I'll start off with today's selected passage. It is from the 25th Surah of the Quran, which is Surah Al-Furqan. I'm just going to share the screen with you so that you can see its text as well, and you'll realize that how subtly the Quran at times conveys its meaning, and how forcefully this meaning is actually implanted in our own minds and souls. So you can see the words of the Quran. This is Surah Al-Furqan, the 25th Surah, and you have verses 63 to 67 being displayed before you. The words are وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. And the servants of the Most Merciful are ones who walk humbly on earth, and when people overcome with emotions argue with them, they go away by saying salam to them. So this is something which the Quran has emphasized at a number of instances, at a number of places, that the first impression that you get of a person is the way he or she walks. And the gait that you can see of a person is the foremost reflection of his or her inner self. And the Quran here says that the servants of the Most Merciful, which it calls Ibadur Rahman, they are ones who walk on this earth in a very humble way. They are ones who never, out of their own personal and their own persona, they never reflect arrogance or haughtiness or any element of pride. They reflect humility. They reflect that they are servants of the Almighty who have been created by Him. And if they have any quality, if they have any attributes, if they have anything to be proud of, it's basically God-given. So in all these issues, they actually attribute whatever they have to the person of God, and they don't claim any credit for their own selves. And this actually speaks of their humility. So the verse says, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. They are the ones who walk very humbly on earth. They don't walk stamping their feet or in a manner that the other person or people who view them think that, well, here's a person who is walking in a way that he or she thinks that, well, there's no one superior to him or her. And the other thing which the verse actually points out is, it says that إِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. Now in the Arabic language, the word jahil is also used for someone who is overcome with emotions, who is in an emotional frenzy. So it's not just ignorance that the word jahil means, which is generally its meaning in the Urdu language, but in Arabic it has two meanings. One of them is a person who is of course ignorant, and the other one who's overcome by frenzy, or in a state of emotional frenzy. And it is here in these verses that it is used in this meaning as well. So the word is that instead of entangling with people who are overcome with emotions, instead of arguing with them, what they do is they just back away, because there is no use arguing with people. There is no use entangling ourselves with people who would like to engage in a heated discussion. And this requires a lot of humility. And this is actually a manifestation of humility, because you see, it's very difficult to control our ego when someone is talking to us in a very ill-mannered way, in a very impetuous way. So what we feel is that we would like to immediately reply to that person, and not only reply to that person, we would like to actually tick him off or pay back in equal coins. But you look what the Quran says. It says, well, the best way for people to counter such arrogance and such unseemly behavior is to just back away, and not just back away. the Quran says that qalu salama. They politely should just wish peace, because Salaam alaikum is the biggest prayer of peace that a believer can offer to any other person. So not only do they withdraw in any amount of, they don't withdraw in any amount of scorn or disdain or hate. They actually withdraw by praying for that person. Like, look, my brother or my sister, it's not becoming for you to use these words, and it would be equally bad if I reply to you in these words. So I'm going to withdraw. I'm not going to withdraw in any state of emotional anger. I'm going to pray for you. And the biggest prayer that you can imagine is Assalamu alaikum, which would actually convey our own well wish, and the fact that we would like that person to calm down and see what he or she is uttering. And the best antidote, my dear participants, I'm sure you would agree, whenever there is an argument, whether it's between two strangers or whether it's between people who are well known to each other, is that one of them, especially the one who is perhaps bearing the brunt of that conversation and who's not angry, should just back away, should just withdraw from that scene and let the other person think that he or she has not done the right thing by becoming angry. Because things are never solved through an emotional outburst. They are always solved in a calm way, in a way that you are able to convey your own emotions. So it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of wisdom to be silent on such occasions, to withdraw from such occasions, and to wish peace to the person who is annoyed. But then this is what the Almighty says, that Ibadur Rahman, or my servants, or the servants of the Most Merciful, such is their quality, such is their trait, that they don't react. They don't respond to the person who is in such an angry frame of mind that he or she does not even know what he or she is talking about. So this is the first thing which the Quran points out regarding the most merciful servants. وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. And then the Quran continues with its sermonizing, as I would say, in this particular verse. And the words it then says is وَالَّذِينَ يَبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا. They are ones who spend the nights while prostrating and standing before their Lord. So وَالَّذِينَ يَبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا, of course, is something which is an outstanding expression of the same humility that the verses previous to this verse actually they began with. It was said that there are people who are humble, they walk humbly on earth. And one expression of this humility is that they wake up at night. And they wake up at night and they spend their nights in prostration. يَبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا, in prostration and in standing in the prayer before the Almighty. And my dear participants, in this blessed month of Ramadan, it does become easy for us to wake up before Fajr, when all of us are generally awake at the Sehri time, when we are eating our meals. So just before finishing off our Sehri or even starting our Sehri, a very recommended practice here would be to offer the night prayer, the tahajjud prayer, which in fact the Quran says that this is how they spend their nights generally. Not just in Ramadan, but generally the servants of the Most Merciful, they spend their nights while prostrating and standing in the presence of God in the prayer. And what makes them stand and prostrate at night? Of course, this is a question that the Quran has given an answer to elsewhere, and says that they are ones who stand in fear and in gratitude. Fear that they are ones who might do something which might displease the Almighty, and gratitude because of the fact there are so many favors which the Almighty has blessed them with, which they can simply not even account for. And when they stand up at night, they thank Him profusely. They thank Him with all their mind, with all their soul, and with all their heart, that God, you have been looking after us in such a profound way, in such a tremendous way. We could not even imagine the extent of mercy, the extent of compassion, the blessings that we all witness all around us every day. We see the earth, we see the mountains, we see the sky, the breeze, the wind, all the elements of nature serving us. Then we see our own selves as human beings serving functions, our own body, our own faculties, they are such that they serve ourselves and make us follow through a very, very relaxed, if we want to, so to speak, a very relaxed routine in life, if we can use our faculties for that. And we have our extended family, we have mothers, all of us have mothers at home, or generally we do have fathers and brothers and sisters and siblings and children, and of course extended family who make our lives so comfortable and we can fall back on their shoulders. And all of this is basically God's doing, is God's creation. He's standing behind all these blessings that we have. So we need to remember that the thing that can motivate us every night to stand up is to offer our gratitude, to pay our thanks to the Almighty, and also to ask for forgiveness of our sins that we might not be very proud of. This is a huge motivation that makes us rise, or should make us rise. And as I said today in the Ramadan, we all of us have this opportunity to pray the night prayer and offer our own gratitude in this way. And at the same time, this actually accounts for a very strong God connection. And this strong God connection is something that can really go very, very far. It can go a long way for the rest of those 11 months in which we, of course, would be interacting and doing things that we might need to actually rectify. And then look what the Quran has said after that. Not only does the Quran say that the people of the servants of God are those who walk humbly on earth and they wish peace to people who are in frenzy, and it says that they spend their nights in prostration and in standing before God. It says, وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا اصْرِفْ عَنَّا عَذَابَ جَهَنَّمَ إِنَّ عَذَابَهَا كَانَ غَرَامًا. That they are the ones who, standing in their prayer at night, they ask the Almighty that please forgive us for our extravagance in our sins, for excesses that we have committed. We have done something that we are not very proud of, but you are the great forgiver. So this is what they say in their night prayer, and not only in their night prayer, whenever they get a chance to pray before the Almighty. This is their stipulated and their standard conversation with God, that please forgive us for what we have done against what are the norms and against what are the norms of decency that we might not be very proud of. So, وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا اصْرِفْ عَنَّا عَذَابَ جَهَنَّمَ. That, oh God, please make us stay away from this fire of hell. Inna azabaha kana gharama, because such is this fire of hell that it sticks to a person whenever a person is cast into hell. Of course, portraying the fact that how ominous and how horrific punishment the punishment of hell would be, and may God save all of us from this punishment. But as I said, that this is what what makes them stand up at night, that to ask for forgiveness and at the same time show gratitude for what the Almighty has done to us, and also strengthen relationship with our Creator, so that in future endeavors in our future life, or in our life which is the post-Ramazan period, we are able to always pick the right and always dismiss the wrong, because this is a decision that each one of us makes every now and then, almost whenever we go pass through our daily routines. The question that if we're doing something is right or wrong crops up every now and then. And it is this strong relationship with the Almighty which actually guarantees this, that we are able to do something that we can boast of and be proud of, that yes, we chose what the right path was when the time came. Okay, then the next verse also takes up cue from the previous words, and what it says is that وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. And even before that, the verse 66, as you can say, is a follow-up on verse 65, when it says إِنَّهَا سَاءَتْ مُسْتَقَرًّا وَمُقَامًا, that if we end up in hell, then of course it's a very evil abode for staying and living. سَاءَتْ مُسْتَقَرًّا وَمُقَامًا. So this is how they feel about the punishment of hell. And then another attribute of the servants of the Almighty, the servants of the Most Merciful, is mentioned. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. And such are they, that when they spend, They are neither extravagant nor stingy, and they adopt the way of moderation in between it. So you see, one of the things that accounts for our arrogance is that we tend to show off, and this show off is done through extravagance, to buying things which are not necessarily our needs. They are beyond our needs and much beyond that. So the Quran says that such are the people, or such are the servants of the Almighty, that they spend in moderation. They don't overspend. إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا. Neither do they overspend, وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا. Nor are they stingy. They are not stingy. They don't withhold or hold back their needs, or don't spend on others. No, what they do is they spend in moderation. And moderation is something I'm sure all of you would agree is the need of the hour, that we should not commit excesses. We should think whatever our needs are. We should carefully evaluate our needs, and if we fulfill our needs, then this is what the Almighty would become extremely happy about. But if we go far beyond our needs, way beyond our needs, start showing indulgence in life and spending in extravagance, because what happens is that when one becomes extravagant, the greatest toll that it takes is that we forget the needs of the people around us, because extravagance does not let us think about others. We are always thinking about spending on our own selves and our own needs. So it's a great hindrance in expressing our compassion and our kindness towards others. It virtually is like a curtain which falls before our eyes, and we are just not able to look beyond our own needs. And to look about others, to think about others, to leap out for others is something which religions of God have always recommended. So these verses finish off by this beautiful advice that when we spend, we should spend out of moderation. And of course, we should not be stingy. We should not be overspending in our needs. And this is the reason that if we underspend or we are stingy, then actually we have not thanked God enough for the favors and the bounties that He has bestowed on us. Because if He has given us, then the reason for that bestowal is that we spend that amount on others as well. Of course, spending on our own selves is certainly not prohibited, but withholding this the amount that we have from others is something which all of us need to be very careful about, very concerned about, that whatever we have which is over and beyond our needs, whether they are of the present or of the future, whether they are personal or they are our business needs, whatever is spare is something that we should be very careful and always think about how the wealth that we have saved up can be of benefit to others. So this is the passage that I wanted to bring to your notice, these verses from Surah Al-Furqan. And it would be good if you could memorize these verses, because these are the verses that motivate us. They really make us think that, well, this is what life is actually about, that we have to be humble, we have to connect ourselves to God, and no better a month than the month of Ramadan. And at the same time, always think that we are blessed if God has given us resources and wealth, and we must share our resources and wealth with the people around us. So I would end my talk here and would be available for any questions that you might have.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dr. Shehzad, for an enlightening session from Surah Al-Furqan with some pertinent practice advice. I'll just go through some housekeeping rules first. Please note the following housekeeping rules. The maximum duration is 30 minutes. And the first round, only one question per participant will be addressed. And if time allows, we'll be going for other sessions as well. So I have just one raised hand right now. Halima Ali, you can go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I have a question regarding that as a female member, we are supposed to be act in a bit rude way or inhospitable towards the opposite gender. So while doing this, sometimes we give a gesture of attitude or being egoistic. So is this right? Thank you.
In the first place, why should you be rude to people who are unrelated? Why at all? I think if you derive this from a certain Quranic verse that has a very specific context, otherwise they must be very careful. I mean, very polite when they talk to people, and I don't see any reason that you should be rude or show an attitude when someone talks to you, especially of the opposite gender.
Yes, Dania, go ahead. Halima, I'll take your question after Dania.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Am I audible to you?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I'm a little bit confused about the cultural norm that we have here in Pakistan and some of the religious practices. If we talk about showing courtesy or kindness towards others, but in a culture where we are living, if we are so much lenient or kind towards others, then somehow people just start to take us for granted, or you can say they may show us some disrespectful attitude as well. So, how to create some certain boundaries of this respect? You can say of this self-respect, because when we, while living in this culture of Pakistan, showing too much respect is not very much welcoming here. But I have observed.
Yes, this is very unfortunate. Otherwise, you see, as a human being, we should realize that respect is one of the greatest attributes that a person should actually show or profess before others. This respect is something which is equally important for elders, equally important towards strangers, equally important towards our colleagues, our friends. I mean, every person in the society who comes in contact with us. This is very important. Unfortunate that when women show this respect or this politeness towards others, others think that they can take advantage of this politeness, and they think that perhaps that lady is wanting something in return. So I think this is really an issue in certain societies, certain third world countries, and yes, I would say that in many cultures, because Pakistan itself is a multicultural place, and in some of the cultures within Pakistan, this is construed as showing, as becoming more closer, or a means to become more close, or showing more frankness towards the opposite gender. So in such case, of course, because cultural norms have to be taken into care as well, I think a polite way of going through, in which you are not showing the other person anything which is beyond the norms of decency. If you do so, this is nothing wrong. And if the other person, as a result, takes any undue advantage or says something which is mean, again, you have to politely say that this is something that you would never condone, and you would like to disengage with that person. So I think you have to be polite, and if that politeness is answered by a flirtatious attitude, if I might say, then you have to just politely disengage from that person. And again, when you disengage, rudeness should not be shown. Politely just withdraw from the person and give that person a very strong signal that yes, you have respect for humanity, but you have no respect for mannerisms which are against decency. So I think yes, it's a big issue. It's something that women do face, but this should not be a cause for them to become disrespectful or rude. It should make them even more polite. And when they think that the other person is taking advantage of them, again, that politeness should be the answer, but be very firm, and at the same time use polite words.
Teacher?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. So my question is that we are asked to lower our gaze while we are talking to the opposite gender. But if we are hearing out a friend or a colleague, and if we don't look towards them while we are talking, so it seems as if we are not hearing them, or maybe we are not paying attention. So what are we supposed to do at such times?
Well, actually, this is a wrong interpretation of the verse which says that you have to lower your gaze. It actually does not mean that you have to lower your gaze. The words are yabuzzu min absarihim, which means that you should be staring at the opposite gender with decency. Your gaze and your sight should not take undue liberty. It should not be a stare. It should not start examining the body parts of the opposite gender. Otherwise, lowering its gaze is not a proper translation. I would say it's a literal translation. The proper translation would be to restrain your gaze. Then men and women should restrain their gazes from taking undue liberty. So here what we are being told is that you should not stare at the opposite gender, especially making them uncomfortable in a way when you start examining their body contours. But when you're talking to someone, by looking at them, you should look at them the way you look at your brother, or maybe your father, or your son, because in that gaze you have modesty present. So what the Quran is actually telling us is we should not be immodest in our gaze. Neither women should be immodestly staring at the opposite gender, nor men should be doing that. So I would say that we have to revisit this translation, which actually causes a lot of confusion, and it's also not the purport of the Quran as well, and also it's absolutely impractical as well. So the words of the Quran clearly tell us that we have to be modest in our gaze, not start staring at the opposite gender in a lustful way.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, Khadija. Halima, you can ask your next question now.
Thank you. Sir, I have a question regarding Dajjal, that what Quran and Hadith says about it.
Well, the Quran does not even mention the word Dajjal anywhere at all. This is mentioned only in certain hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is mentioned as a sign of the Day of Judgment, and one of the signs of the Day of Judgment. And one of the portions, I would say, or some of the narratives which mention Dajjal actually mention it as Al-Masihud Dajjal, which means a false Jesus, or an antichrist, as it is translated. So it does seem that near the end of time there would be a person who would pose himself to be Jesus, whereas he would not be Jesus, and he would be the Dajjal, or he would be the person who is deceiving the other person. The word Dajjal literally means the great deceiver. The Dajjal in Arabic means deception. So Dajjal is the great deceiver. And the certain other ahadith specify that because of the fact that the Jews are also waiting for a Messiah, the Christians, they are waiting for Jesus to return. Muslims also, many of the Muslims profess this belief that Jesus is going to return again. So it does seem that while taking advantage of all these beliefs of all these three denominations, a person near the end of time, near the Day of Judgment, would falsely pose himself that I am the Messiah, or I am the Antichrist, or I am the person who you have been waiting for. So this is as far as we can tell from those of these narratives. But as I said, there's nothing which is mentioned regarding Dajjal in the Quran.
Thank you, sir. So it means that it is not important for us to believe that Dajjal has to come, right?
No, actually, you see, it's a sign of a Day of Judgment. It's just like telling us that the Almighty's Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the last prophet of God, he gave us certain signs regarding the Day of Judgment. He told us that this is such and such thing would happen near the end of time. So it's not a question of believing; it's just a question of knowing that this is a prophecy. This is a prediction made that near the end of time, such and such things would happen, and such predictions, they always are meant to put us on guard, that if something like this arises, then we have to think that how that prediction, if it has materialized, the amount of care and caution that we need to exercise in that case must not go away from us. So these prophecies are generally meant to make us more vigilant and diligent, that if the time or the Day of Judgment is near, or if there is such an happening which has already been predicted, then we should stand on guard. And literally, if this is the case, that there is a person who becomes a false Messiah or a false Jesus near the end of time, we can clearly know that it's a false claim, because this is something which was foretold by our prophet. So basically, it's not a question of belief as much as it is a prophecy to make us realize that the end of times, whenever these prophecies they come true, they are near, and at the same time, whatever is predicted in these prophecies is something that we have already been foretold of, and we should not succumb to them, or think that certain things which have been told in these prophecies as stopping us from believing in them. They are going to guide us.
My question was about earlier somebody asked about Yaquddul Absar. Like when it comes in the other place in the Quran, it says Yaquddul Aswat. So it's lower your voice, so lower your gaze. Isn't that the literal meaning, or is it just the interpretation that you
It's
said
a
earlier, that it's
metaphor.
not lowering the gaze, it's
Right. So Yahuzul Aswat would mean to reduce the tone of your voice. It would not mean that you start. I mean, you don't take your voice out. I mean, it's not like silencing yourself. So in a very similar way, the part when it is discussed in Surah Nur, what it tells us is that you must not let your gaze take undue liberty. It does not at all mean that you have to lower your eyesight. It is a metaphorical expression to the of the fact that your eyesight or your gaze should be decent enough. It should have decency in it. It is not to be taken literally, because even in the case where you cited Yahuzna min aswatihinna, or if you says that if the Quran says that you have to lower your voice, that again is something which is of a literal phenomena. I mean, it is a voice which is there and you have to lower it. Here, actually, the word is which is used with the verb of yaghzuz is your eyesight, and it is here it is used metaphorically and not in a literal sense.
Thank you, Shazia. Samra Harun, you can go now.
My question is relating to the differences between Ahle Tashayyu and the Sunni sects. And if we have, naturally, we could have Ahle Tashayyu friends as well. So is it permissible or okay to engage with them on the belief issues, like where could they be wrong in their beliefs, or, is it okay to
Absolutely. I mean, this not just between the Ahle Tashayyu and the Ahle Tasannun. This could be the case with any person who has any belief. He could be an atheist. He could be an agnostic. As long as the conversation remains pleasant, it remains within the norms of decency, the discussion in which you're trying to find out the other person's opinion and trying to present your own. So if it's a amicable discussion, why not? You can always indulge in that. It is only when you feel that the other person is indulging in a heated argument, or is not listening, or is not open in his or her approach to find out whether the other person has arguments which could be valid or not, should one abstain. Otherwise, I think this is what should happen, that if we have a difference of opinion in any matter, it should be politely discussed, and we should engage with the other person. The only thing is, we should not force our opinion on the other person, and the other person should also not force his or her opinion, and should take it as an intellectual exercise in which you are exchanging views and you're growing as a result. So when you're finding out the reasoning of a particular view, you might be wrong in your own view, and that reasoning could actually make you closer to the truth, or make you realize that you were believing something which was not correct. So I think a healthy exchange is something that should always be encouraged. The only thing is that you must pick and choose your audience. If the audience or the person that you're discussing it is open to discussion, that is the best way out. But if the person has a closed mind and would not, listen to you, then there's no use, because it's going to be a very unpleasant discussion in that case.
Thank you, participants. Thank you, Dr. Shehzad. If there are any closing remarks.
So thank you very much for being here, and inshallah we'll have this session every day at the same time in Ramadan, and see you all tomorrow, inshallah.